Now, if it's a left turn, then there's a few more steps that's added to it that could make the student a little bit more nervous because they have to lane change. So when it comes to a lane change, here's the diagram that I'm going to use. Anytime a student is lane changing, there's a flow chart that could be used to help the student. The first thing you do is ask the student to check the mirror, and I usually tell the student to check the rear view mirror. And the reason for being this is that the rear view mirror tends to be the mirror that gives you the biggest view. So if you see a car like this here, where you can see the whole front of the car and some space in between, then that means you have a good 20 plus, 30 plus meters of space, which means in most cases that it would be a sufficient amount of space to leave for lane change. But if this car is actually getting closer and closer and they've gotten to less than seeing the tires of the car, how close is that?
It's about, that is definitely shorter than 14 meters.
That's correct. And that's where you now have this mirror making a little bit more sense. So for a beginner, it will be very hard to judge how far or close these cars are. But if you show them the diagram and say, hey, this is close, this is far, then that means the student will make that decision.
Right.
If you actually check the mirror and the car's too close, don't even bother going to the signal.
Just wait.
Just wait by looking ahead. So that's why the chart here goes mirror. If it doesn't work, go look ahead. If it's okay, go back to mirror. Mirror is okay now, go to your turn signal. So let's say left turn signal. Then you put that on, you check the blind spot. If the blind spot is clear, you proceed. If it's not, come back and say, hey, there's a car there, go back to look ahead. You might want to cancel your turn signal at this time if there's no chance of getting in. Then you check your mirror once the car passes you, check your mirror again, signal left, blind spot, okay, this time it's okay, it's safe, but only proceed when it's safe. Now, the reason for this is you don't want to go and there's let's say a red light or a stop sign coming up. All right, and you check your speed, because this is the most common mistake. Drivers will, new beginners at least, will tend to brake for a lane change, not like what we do, speed up.
Right.
So we have to remind students, check your speed, speed up a little, and maintain the speed that's on this road. Then look ahead. Now the reason for this is this. Do you see this brake light on this car?
Yes.
It's very common that cars that passes you for whatever reason, let's say there's a traffic light, there's a pedestrian jaywalking, whatever it is, the student, if he or she's checking the blind spot and going to the next lane, well, if that car suddenly brakes, would the student see it while checking the blind spot?
No.
No. So tell the student, look ahead before you lane change. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So that's the whole
definitely.
flow chart.
Okay.
You see how this is making things a lot clearer to the student. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Then, when we are done with the lane change, mirror signal, blind spot, get into the lane, we need to lane change one more time. Now, most people would neglect to go and check the blind spot before entering this lane. Now, the reason why we want to check it here is simply for the fact that there will be cars that's using this yellow area or the center lane to go straight through. And
Yes.
this is the reason why we check. The only time that we would enter this area before the broken white line here is only if the traffic is backed up all the way to here and there's nowhere else to wait. Then we're forced to enter at the last moment. But don't go and use that as a through lane.
Okay.
I've learned that last time you were in the car.
Oh yes, I know. Oh yeah, that's right. That intersection
right
here.
there.
Once we get into the lane, check the mirror and blind spot. This is the one that's considered as approach, not this one, which a lot of people don't know, thinking, oh, that's my approach.
Yeah.
Examiner don't see it, they can mark this. So once you approach, you apply mirror signal, blind spot, and these signals, by the way, could be one signal for multiple lane changes. This is something that a lot of driving instructors think, oh, every lane change must have its own individual turn signal, and that's not true. One signal could be used for multiple lane changes if the distance is very short.
Okay.
Right? And once you get into this lane, it would slow down if it's a green light. If it's a red light, then of course you need to stop. If there's traffic waiting here, of course you would need to stop. Right? But assuming that we have to slow down and stop, then we actually have to decide: do we stop inside the intersection, or do we wait behind the white line, the stop line? And the situation could be like this: you have one car already entered the intersection, then there's no need in most cases to go in. We stay behind.
Okay.
All right. Reason for being so is if you go in and you're partially in, like say where the pedestrian crossing lines are, the light changes to yellow. Do you go or not go?
I think you should go because
Well,
you're
if you're
impeding
in
the
here-
pedestrians.
If you're in here and you decided to go, there's a good chance the examiner will fail you for the test because you've failed to follow the traffic signal.
Right, because it's yellow.
It's yellow.
Gotcha.
If you decide to wait here, you're blocking pedestrians' way.
Mm-hmm.
That's not safe either, and that would be a fail. If you reverse out of the intersection, it could also be considered as illegal if there's a sign that says left turn only. So therefore, no matter how you look at it, it's very dangerous to wait in the middle like this. So what to do is always wait behind the stop line. If you could be out, stay out. If you could be in, go in.
Okay.
Unless the intersection is big enough for.
Yes, unless it's absolutely big, like Steeles and Warden.
Warden.
Mm-hmm.
Steeles and
Woodbine, actually.
Woodbine.
Woodbine, yeah.
No, they're both big.
Mhm.
Those are some examples where you could possibly fit as many as 2 cars.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I would not.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. So, most likely you'll wait behind if you're the second vehicle. But if you go in, how do you
Two-door.
determine how far you go in? Well, simple. The car should be aligned so that you are aligned with the first available lane on the left. That's how you know you're inside the intersection. Now, there's another reason why the shoulder, which is the B pillar, align with the first available lane. It could be from the curb to the white line. Doesn't really matter as long as it's within that area. There's a good reason why I only teach students to go this far and not any further. If the light changes to green, it changes to yellow. I said green. This supposedly the traffic that's oncoming would come to a stop. Correct? Once the vehicles come to a stop and there's no pedestrians crossing, the student will naturally complete the turn. Now, if you go far enough here, you would actually have the second car that's partially in that would go with you. And what will happen is the student will complete the turn. Now, what will happen is the car behind will go into the next available lane. And after your student speeds up and wants to keep to the right, well, problem. There's conflict. So to reduce the chance of conflict, it's better to let the car behind stay behind
Yeah.
instead of going with you. Do you see the strategy here too?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a reason for that too. All right? But anyways, once you've determined, hey, there's 6 seconds in gap and there's a safe distance to go, fine, you can go. But if you had to wait here and there's a vehicle that's on the other side, let's say the 2 vehicles here blocking your view, then you would apply the S turn. Remember what I said in the classroom? Quarter left, hold it, 1, 2, 3, quarter right, and then straight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you say 1, 2, 3, it's just to give you a little bit of time to get some of that space recovered so that you can see better.
Mm-hmm.
If you just do quarter left, immediately quarter right, and straight, there's no difference.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Correct. Not right. Correct.
That's correct.
While waiting, though, the wheels are expected to be straight. Now, I'm going to go back here and reference this. If the examiner notices the student having the wheels turn, you see here, right here, wheels turned, that would be a mark on the test.
Definitely.
That's why we teach our students to keep the wheels straight. In fact, all the steps I have designed here also complies with the road test score sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I have already had all this in mind when I designed this. Once you've determined it's safe, you could complete the turn into the corresponding lane, scan ahead and steer while doing that. And once you get into this lane, ask the student not to lane change immediately. Pick up speed to 40, 50, and then keep to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for being that way is that if the student decides to go and focus on the lane change and does not pick up speed, well, the cars from behind are going to be catching up. There's no way in the world that anyone's going to let a person going 30, 20 get into that lane.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
Correct.
So tell your students, go up to 40, 50 kilometers first. Now check your mirror. Signal to the right. Is there a car? Nope. Blind spot check. Is there a car? Nope. All right. In that case, look straight ahead. Slowly, gradually steer and into the next lane. Do you see the difference?
Yeah, because if you turn and you're going slow, no one's gonna let you in. They're gonna whip around you.
Exactly.
So if